y'all been pronouncing your name
No.
Okay.
See, a lot of people ask me.
Well, I want to get it right.
Okay. I guess my name, how you pronounce my name is Bijan. Okay. Like, that's how you say my name. But I say Bijan.
Okay.
And I don't know why I say that. Like, all my life I said that, and my mom's like, "Why do you say your name like that?" Like, and I mean, that's just how everybody says it. But I don't. It doesn't really like affect me on how it's said. So if you guys want to say Bijan, like, go ahead. But if you guys want to say Bijan, I mean, I'm cool with that too.
But are we going to hear from your mom if we say Bijan?
You might. No, she might say something. I mean, she even told me. She's like, she called me the other day. She was like these people were talking about.
What up, y'all? It's Game Time Ty in the house. It's a lovely Thursday afternoon, 2:17 p.m. over here in lovely sunny Southern California. Coming at you with some news today, and then a couple spicy takes later on. But it's gonna be a quick stream. Nothing crazy. You might walk away from this completely questioning all of what I say, or loving the spicy hotness of it, and potentially that sways some of your potential picks in this upcoming draft season. So without further ado, let's jump into some news. Something ridiculous. I honestly don't know if I can even trust this report. This is 2 hours ago by sorry if I mispronounced this, Shauna McCarrison. Shauna reports that Rob Gronkowski could come back to the field soon? ? I don't know about this. I don't know about this. She doesn't know about this either. But apparently there's one person that would grab Gronk's attention and get him to come out of retirement. And let's listen
Brian
in.
Daboll wants me on his roster.
Don't
I know it.
don't.
Brian Daboll?
He won't have that face if I.
Cool. Wasn't expecting him to say that, to be honest, but that's actually, I guess not terrible. You can't get me out of retirement. Hey, let's just watch the whole clip. It'll load. It's an X clip, formerly known as Twitter. So chances are it won't load properly or ever. But we'll give it another few seconds.
The window.
Okay, here we go.
We can't keep doing this.
I know, but I love to do
Where's
it.
the window? Is it?
I love to do it though.
Is it like open?
I love to pretend that I can still play. Just makes me feel
you
good.
could. You definitely could still play.
No, I can't.
He's fucking around,
Washed up.
obviously.
Who's the coach that
But
has?
I just like to pretend.
Who's the coach that has the best chance to get you out of retirement?
Brian Daboll.
Really? Really? Not Sean McDermott? Interesting.
Why is she trying to drop Sean McDermott's name in the
Your
mix like
favorite
that?
team.
But Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll
Yeah.
could get you out. What would he say if you called
I
him?
mean, he can't.
What would he have to say to
He
you?
can't get me out of retirement, but he would have the best chance to get me out of retirement.
I mean, it
yeah.
could be you and Waller. Can you imagine that?
That would be pretty wild.
Obviously, that's a
I always
joke.
believe that having two tight ends is the best. It makes the defense have the most difficult times. If you have two tight ends, I think that can. Make
Oh,
the
hey,
offense
what's up, Adam
unstoppable.
McFresh?
And it's
Thanks for
rare.
the
I mean,
thanks
if
for
you
the
go
follow,
back to
brother.
my
Appreciate
days
that.
when I had another tight end with me, I mean, it just makes the offense just prolific. just unstoppable. It gives you so many more options in the run game. And
I mean, he's not wrong about that. So Gronk actually is true. Like the two tight end, having two dynamic tight ends as weapons on the field at the same time, it puts a lot of pressure on defenses. And like you said, having them being able to block, them also being able to leak out, catch passes, being in those heavy upfront lineups. Those two tight end sets. You can run the ball well. You can pass the ball well if you have two great tight end pass catcher tight ends. So I like kind of just what he said there. But as far as we all kind of like if you're a football head, you kind of understand what he's saying is essentially common knowledge, anyways. But it's fun to hear from Gronk, and just it's hilarious to even. Yeah, Gronk is a national treasure, dude, for real. That might have been a delayed reaction. I apologize. My chat's coming a little slow, but you're right. Gronk is such a national treasure. Anything he says is we're just gonna listen to it with bated breath. But yeah, as far as him potentially coming back, there's no shot. There's no shot of him unretiring to come play for the Giants. I love that this is a conversation, though. Great reporting here. The Up and Adams show sounds fun, and thanks, Shauna, for calling this out. Great article. Love what I see here. Great stuff. Let's move on to something else. Madden NFL 24 comes with a Kansas City Easter egg. I don't know. This isn't really news. This is kind of just a weird story, but. You know what? Fuck this. I'm not even interested. Let's just move on to something that's actually relevant, potentially fantasy relevant, because that Madden, great, but I couldn't care less. This is interesting. This is might not have fantasy relevance, but this is also part of why the Jets have been probably experiencing some. I think they just bailed on a practice today. Their joint practice with the Bucks. Oh no, that was yesterday. But today's joint practice, they bailed. I'm not sure. I forget if it was with the Bucks again or if it was with another team. I imagine it would just be with the Bucks. But they canceled that. Most likely partially due to this. But senior defensive assistant cornerbacks coach Tony Oden exited practice on a cart after he went down on the sideline during Wednesday's joint practice. Robert Salah told reporters Oden went to the hospital after catching a little friendly fire during a skirmish. Oh shit. So it looks like maybe he took a fat hit here. I don't know. This is the suspense. What am I gonna see? Oh, his left arm's in a sling. He's okay, so he's fine. He's back to practice. What the fuck is going on here? It's not uncommon for fights to break out. So he got hurt in a practice. He's back. He was hospitalized for that. Great story. We're gonna move on. This one's way more relevant. This one actually is something that I am really sad to hear because I was hot on a lot of Lions this year, or still am. But specifically this guy right here, Jameson Williams, rookie wide receiver. I think he's a first round draft pick. Apparently they're shutting him down for the rest of preseason, so it's nothing to be too concerned about just yet. But obviously, Detroit Lion head coach Dan Campbell said Thursday there's a good chance the second-year receiver, he's a second-year receiver, that's right, second-year receiver, will miss the rest of preseason after suffering a hamstring injury during Wednesday's practice. So we're definitely looking at that guy as someone who could take a step forward this year. We love rookies. We love what we saw from him in his rookie year, even though he's going to be suspended for half the season. So it's one of those things that it sucks because we were going to see him in the preseason, and that was potentially going to be a chance for him to also get some chemistry with his guys, right? He didn't really see much of the field last year. I mean, let's just look at his stats, honestly, because I'm tripping on this guy. Stats. Let's see, what was his last season? 2022 season, 2 catches, 18 yards. So he must have been hurt last year. And that's a shame. Yeah, That's a shame. He played 6 games and only had 1 catch for 9 yards. So that's weird. You know, that's weird. He must have gotten hurt last year. He was obviously a first-round pick, and now he's suspended for six games. So again, we wanted to see him get chemistry with his guys this preseason to hopefully, you know, build some of that rapport early, and so he could hit the ground running potentially when he came back off his suspension. But now it's like this guy just feels like a dead pick to me. I mean, if you drafted well and you like want to go ahead and snag a guy like this who's going, let's remember, people are picking up like at the back of drafts. Okay, so he's like a shot you take in like the 14th, 15th round. Fine, take a shot like that. You know, you obviously hopefully built depth on your team with wide receivers. He's somebody you're not expecting to see, obviously, for the first 6 weeks, but then he might take a little bit of time to, you know, exactly. It's a Hail Mary. You know, he might take some time to really, really, really get going. So, but I mean, we like his talent. We like his potential there. Jared Goff's a gunslinger. He could potentially take a step forward this year. If he does, they're going to want guys like Jameson Williams on that team making explosive plays, catching Hail Marys from guys like Jared Goff, right? So Jameson Williams, that news is tough to hear. It definitely hurts his stock. I honestly feel like he might just go undrafted now. Like I said, he's kind of a dead pick to me at this point because you already aren't expecting him for half the season. And you could probably just pick him up off a waiver wire, you know, week 5, week 4, maybe if you want to go early, just because somebody dropped him because they needed that spot. You know, you're not going to throw him on IR. He's suspended. You know, he could. I mean, it depends on your league settings. That is a possibility. If your league is cool enough to have suspensions count as, you know, for the IR spot, great, stash him. But if that's not the case, he's somebody who I wouldn't waste a roster spot on a guy like Jameson Williams personally, just based off the news that we heard and based off of the trajectory that I'm seeing with him and even that team. I think Amon-Ra got banged up today. Let's look up Amon-Ra because I think he actually returned to practice, but shit, what just happened? I think he returned to practice, but still. So Brown ready for a big debut. All right. Yeah, he was on the field today with equipment. Intern Casey Edwards loading football for St. Brown. Caught exactly 202 balls on the jug machine today. Okay. Even if he's held up late after training season sessions, signing autographs and posing for photos with fans, Brown finishes every day the same way. Ritual has made him one of the most sure-handed receivers in the football league. So okay, so he's looking decent in practice. I definitely want to hear something about his injury though. Suffers leg injuries in practice. This is yesterday. So yesterday at 11:52 a.m., the Lions have a reason to buy into their hype. St. Brown, who's emerged hurt his right leg on the first play of 7-on-7 drills, according to Detroit Free Press. Before receiving attention from trainers, he was spotted running in the end zone shortly afterward. Okay, so this might have just been a minor scare. Hopefully it's nothing serious. St. Brown's ability is more pressing concern, though. His movement after Wednesday's injuries suggests he won't be sidelined for long. Okay, you know, could just be a little scare because he definitely needs to be on the field this year. Obviously, Jared Goff's really counting on that. That whole team is counting on him to be a guy. They got rid of DeAndre Swift, who was a big part of that offense last year. They're bringing in a new guy, Jahmyr Gibbs, who they're expecting to be a big part of this offense. They want this offense to be cranking at a very high level and a very fast pace. So obviously Amon-Ra is a huge part of that. As long as he's healthy and as long as he's, you know, like they're taking their time with him, definitely be careful with him at this point. Anytime you see lower body injuries with any football player for that matter, but especially a receiver, you know, especially an explosive guy like him, very scary. But it looks like it's not that serious. We'll definitely keep our eye on this. I don't know if it affects his draft stock too much right now. We're still pretty early. You know, we're about still 3.5 weeks away from the regular season. Maybe actually only 3, but still that's enough time to give him enough rest before then if it's nothing crazy, to be back in game shape, ready to go by week 1. So that's good news. But again, hearing that they're doing this to him, you don't want to hear a lot of injuries start to pile up for any one team, because then that just has huge ramifications for that entire squad going forward. So like, every other guy that goes down, it's like a force multiplier that you're missing out on. And the amount of damage that could do to a team. And we saw with the Chargers what injuries did with them multiple years. And that team we think of as playoff contenders every single year because of just their talent alone. So, shout out to all Chargers fans out there. Hopefully this is your year where you go pretty far. Hopefully not too far, because obviously, if the Bengals and the Chargers decide to meet somewhere in the playoffs, you know who I'm going for. I'm going for my Bengals. But good luck, Chargers, this year. I think it's a real promising year. But anyways, moving on to just some quick updates here. There's some random preseason notes from this NFL.com just league roundup for Thursday. Let's check it out. Ronald Darby visiting Baltimore on Thursday. Okay, that could be significant. Ronald Darby's not a bad corner by any means, and he could actually potentially help that team out big time. Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen and the starters will play about a quarter and a half in Saturday's preseason game against the Steelers. Okay, that to me is kind of a big deal. Now, obviously, it's never really too big of a deal when you have starters play in the preseason, at least not the last game of preseason. Usually that's just like you never throw a starter in there. But the fact that this is like reported, and the fact that this is a guy like Josh Allen, and I've already heard some things about this team kind of feeling maybe they're confident for sure, but there has been maybe some locker room vibe issues, with like guys like Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, or maybe those things could be nothing burgers. But when you hear whisperings of something like that, there's always something there to that. And so I don't know if this is related in any way, but the fact that this is even being reported on as like, oh yeah, the starters are going to play a quarter and a half. I mean, a quarter and a half is actually a long time. So let's be real about that. A quarter and a half, you're talking about like at least 3 or 4 full drives, in preseason with your starters. So that just means to me, like, let's try to read between the lines here, that Sean McDermott feels like there's some stuff they need to work out, right? The starters have not been maybe performing as well as they should be in practice, or maybe there's some, like insubordination, or I don't want to even go there because that's obviously like, that's a real touchy subject that we'll really never see like press light, right? Like we're not going to hear a lot about that kind of stuff. So this is all speculation, but there's something there enough for Sean McDermott to feel a little uncomfortable with his starters and say, all right, I'm going to work you guys in preseason. You're really never expecting to play a quarter and a half in preseason. You're only ever to see starters go like 1, maybe 2 drives, if that. And so this is a big deal in that sense. If you're really trying to, like speculate on what the reasoning could be behind the workload that these guys are going to get in this game. I mean, I could see the Steelers maybe leaving their defensive starters out there, but I don't know if their offensive starters are going to play. Actually, maybe the Steelers just fucking take their defensive starters out after the first series, and they're just like, nah, fuck it. Like, we'll just let Josh Allen like work against, depending on who it is, right? Like if there's some rookies in there that they want to be on the first team and get some actual real good experience in the preseason. If Josh Allen and the ones are going to be playing for a whole quarter and a half, why not get your rookies, who are going to be playing some meaningful minutes there, or you could see playing meaningful minutes for you down the road in the actual season. Get them some experience right there. I mean, that's like really top tier, snaps right there that you're taking with your rookies. So I actually think that's would be a fun preseason game to watch. I'll be watching that for sure. Here's some injuries. Never like to hear that. Damian Harris knee will be limited today. Gabe Davis, general soreness, will be back today. That's good. Eli Yonku, calf not practicing. Terrell Bernard, hamstring. Balin Spector back. I guess all this stuff means just they're not practicing. And then Cam Lewis will be limited. Not a lot of that is relevant except for maybe the Gabe Davis and Damian Harris if we're talking about fantasy. Obviously, Damian Harris is expected to be a very large part of that backfield. If we're seeing knee soreness, limited practice this early on, and if they don't manage it properly, I could see that being something that continues to plague him throughout the year. And maybe he won't see the volume that we were expecting Damian Harris to get, because let's remember, they acquired him. They obviously let Singletary go. But Damian Harris is somebody they wanted to rely on. Like, his ADP might not feel like that, but in terms of NFL purposes, he was somebody who they were going to probably feed him 8 to 10 carries a game. They wanted them to be potentially near the goal line. I don't think, we mentioned this before when Matty Boots was on the depth chart breakdown episode for the AFC North. The AFC East. We knew that there's no possible way to sustain the level of running that Josh Allen was doing, especially in the red zone. There was no way to sustain that. We talked about Russian quarterbacks. So Damian Harris was going to step in, be kind of a more goal line guy. We've seen him do that in the past. So even though his ADP doesn't really reflect, I think, his upside, totally was worth stashing on your bench for the first couple weeks, seeing what that offense looked like, seeing if our, random projections were correct in terms of them leaning a little bit more off of Josh Allen in the run game, leaning more on a Damian Harris in the run game during those goal line scenarios specifically. And that, to me, has some value. So, he could be a fringe RB3, someone who potentially could slot into a flex in a pinch. If Buffalo turns into a rush-heavy team, which they really haven't been, at least when you talk about their running backs, like Josh Allen's essentially been their running back for the last 3 years. But if they decide that they want to be a little bit more of a balanced attack, and Damian Harris is a big part of that, or at least, a decent part of that. I mean, where he's going right now, like I said, that's for free. But again, when you see this, creeping up, stuff like this, knee soreness will be limited today. Creeping up in preseason, that doesn't instill a lot of confidence in you. And, just something to keep an eye on. Like I said, if hopefully they manage it the right way, like I said, they want him to be involved. They got him to be somebody here. So they'll manage him properly. Hopefully that's, that training staff is giving him the rehab that he needs, taking it easy. He's being limited today, right? So keep an eye. Chicago Bears, they signed Davian Taylor, linebacker. Cool. They're just getting depth there. Buddy Johnson, they cut him. He's injured. So great. Good. Sucks for you, buddy. I'm sorry to hear that. But, that would explain the signing. Amon-Ra St. Brown here. We talked about it. So it's an ankle. He's expected to return to practice next week. But again, we know that Jameson Williams is out for the rest of the preseason. So just we'll check in again next week on the Amon-Ra scenario and just see if there's any relevant things to discuss there. Injuries on the Green Bay Packers. So moving on to the Green Bay Packers. David Bakhtiari, he's been limited for maintenance reasons. Will practice today. So, he's their offensive tackle. He's a Pro Bowler. Not sure if he was a Pro Bowler last year, because they had some offensive line problems. I think he might have been hurt some of last year. But regardless, this is good news for the Packers and for obviously the Jordan Loves of the world and the Aaron Jones of the world and the AJ Dillons. this is definitely positive to have your guy David Bakhtiari back, who's definitely a big part of this locker room for one. Not even just the offensive line in terms of the plays, the level of play that he kind of sets, but also just that he's an experienced player. He's a veteran, right? He's a vet at this point who's got a lot of knowledge and wisdom that he can impart on I'm sure a few of these young guys who they're trying to bring up in this offensive line. So moving on to the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud will start in Saturday's preseason contest against the Dolphins. That's pretty cool. You know, it's always good to hear that a guy that you went and picked up at such a high place in the draft, you're gonna now let him cook essentially. So obviously that's not the regular season yet. I'm excited to see this just because CJ didn't have a really great showing the last time we saw his let's see. I don't know if let's check out his stats here. Come on. I gotta go on ESPN. All right. So 13 yards and that interception. I mean, it's not even showing me the actual games either. But again, 50% completion percentage. He threw for 13 yards and the interception. That's not good. I mean, that's not good. But, you know, like, again, this headline right here, Louis Riddick's talking about it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's true. So, again, like, let's see how he comes back. His first outing was not great by any means. So we'll see if he's able to rebound and come back in a more effective manner, but also kind of shake off, you know, the haters or the naysayers or that negative press, because you're going to be getting, you know, a lot of negative press, especially as a rookie, you know, like coming in a high draft pick, you know, you're like the top 3 pick or something like that. I think he was like the 2nd pick overall. You know, you're going to be scrutinized to a level that not a lot of other positions are scrutinized. Not a lot of other players in general are going to be scrutinized at, like, at least as a rookie, right? So that's a lot. And you never want to give the press ammunition. You never want to give people a reason to say these bad things about you. But, you know, we didn't see anything great from him. We didn't see a lot of good stuff from him. It was actually more bad stuff. But this Saturday against the Dolphins, who are a really good defense, by the way, Dolphins, and they just upgraded it during the offseason. So they're not going to just like let him like look like a baller against them. In fact, they want to look like ballers against him, right? So I think we'll learn a lot, and that's clearly what the Texans are hoping to do here is learn what they have with this guy. Maybe he's looked sharp in practice, and they're confident that start will be a totally stark difference from what we saw, you know, in his first debut, you know, in the preseason. So, like, people don't just come in and start off hot all the time. Like, you have to develop. You know, this is going to be a second preseason game. Like, we should pump the brakes a little bit on just like knee-jerk reaction of he's not good, because I think he should be fine. He'll grow. Justin Fields wasn't great his first year. You know, he had a definite step up last year, but his rookie year was pretty like lackluster. Peyton Manning, one of the greats, you know, if we remember his first year, it was awful. And I think even his first game, he threw like 4 picks or some shit like that. But, you know, like, don't knee jerk. It's fine. Let your young guy develop. CJ Stroud should be, by the middle towards the end of the season, somebody that we're talking about is like, hey, he's got a chance to be in like the top 15 of quarterbacks in this league, because, you know, he's basically drafted to be that at some point in his career, they're hoping he can be like a top 5 QB. I don't know. It depends. We see a lot of talented guys come out of college that never really pan out that way. And, we did talk about it with Matty Boots on one of the other episodes, but guys like Josh Rosen, for instance, who, the Cardinals like mortgaged their future, traded up to go get that guy. And then what did he do? Where is that guy? So, anyways, moving on to the Indianapolis Colts. Ashton Dulin is placed on injured reserve. The team announced. So, damn, he was fuck. That sucks, dude. Suffered a torn ACL in Wednesday's practice. Per Fox's Mike Chappell, sorry. That's nuts. That's really hard to hear, especially if you're, an Anthony Richardson believer and you think that at least despite this team being bad, which they will be, they still will let this young guy develop. And Ashton Dulin, who's no slouch, he's part of their team. Let's look at their depth chart. He's somebody who they were hoping to rely upon in the season. And if Dulin is out, so they actually already took him off the depth chart. Good on you, ESPN, for updating those depth charts. Awesome. But if we were to look 2 days ago, this was a completely different scenario where Dulin was in the mix in the top rotation for receivers. So him going down like that really, really sucks. They still have decent depth here, but maybe not. Isaiah McKenzie's decent. Like, he's actually not bad either. Alec Pierce, fine. He's like, if Hunter Renfrow was the Diet Cooper Kupp, then Alec Pierce is the Diet Cooper Kupp, or he's like the, Cooper Kupp Zero or something like that. Alec Pierce, he'll it's funny because he actually should be good. Like, he's a second round pick. It's interesting, 6'3", he's a big guy, like, and he's fast too. So he's apparently, let's look at this. This is 10 months ago. So this is actually back in last year's season. But there were reports of him breaking loose. I mean, we saw these games, right, where he actually did stuff that was like, it looked flashy, it looked cool. That's why I kind of say he's like a Cooper Kupp Zero. It's like a diet version of Cooper Kupp. But either way, like, if they're expecting him to take that role, or at least be a bigger role in this offense, great. But again, the Ashton Dulin, I think that news hurts this team a little bit. I could be overreacting. They could be fine with the depth that they have. Like I said, Isaiah McKenzie's no slouch. If this kid, Alec Pierce, takes a step forward, we know who Michael Pittman is. You know what I mean? That offense should be at least garbage time heroes. You know what I mean? Like, they probably won't be in game-winning scenarios, but it's not like they're just going to roll over and die each game, right? So they'll be chucking the ball. They'll be taking shots with their rookie. They want to get their guy developed so that in the near future, he could potentially be in the same conversation as the Justin Fields and the, Jalen Hurts, or even the Josh Allens and the Joe Burrows and the Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he was drafted to kind of be that, like he should, if they develop him properly. And I don't have really a lot of faith in the Colts that they will, because let's look at, their track record. It's not great. They've actually, I think it's like some dumb record of, they've had 8 straight years of a different starting quarterback on opening night for them, which is, I actually, that sounds crazy to me, because I know they had a few years where Andrew Luck was their starter for sure, like their bona fide starter. But I guess it makes sense, because there were a few years where he was like not ready for the start of the season, or like, Jacoby Brissett was, I think, their starter, who was like the interim guy when he was getting healthy. But like that, that's neither here nor there. I guess what my point is that I don't know if I trust the Colts to develop their guys. I mean, they literally made Andrew Luck retire. Like, if we're talking about Andrew Luck, like, phenomenal quarterback. Honestly, I could say like there's an argument, maybe not first ballot, but get that man into the Hall of Fame at some point in his life, because just the play that he, how he played when he was obviously healthy, but then just his spirit, right? Like the love for the game that he had. He was like giving guys props for just cracking him, and just be like, hey, good hit, man. He loved the game. Like, if you turned Andrew Luck into a guy who just like, I can't take this anymore, I gotta retire. Like, how the fuck do you do that? How do you do that? You can't find a guy who loves the game more than Andrew Luck. And this guy retired before he was like 30. Like, what? That still blows me away. I still look at that situation. I'm like, is it like, that's a huge indictment, I think, on just the Indianapolis Colts. Like, I mean, it's no secret that I am a like staunch Colt basher. Like, I find any chance I can get. I'm kind of just realizing it now, but I know people who know me know that anytime the Colts are brought up, I'm not talking about them in a positive way. And that goes with the Jonathan Taylor situation. Obviously, it goes without saying. And then again, just to wrap up this point, but I don't have faith that they're going to develop their guy. But Anthony Richardson, I have the utmost confidence in him as a player, and good luck to you, sir. Best luck in your career. But man, the Colts, oof, I hope they're like changing their culture there and how they treat and develop their young guys. I super duper hope so. And that starts with Jonathan Taylor. Don't think Anthony Richardson is not paying attention to what's happening with the Jonathan Taylor situation. Oh, you best believe he's paying attention. So that's all I'm saying. You just can't treat them like just straight up commodities like that. Like, at the end of the day, it's a business, sure, but like, these still motherfucking people. Like, these are humans. Like, you can't just. Okay. Moving on. Kansas City. Oh, they signed Tyler Adams. So it's like, again, they're just adding depth there because of the Doolin situation. Moving on to Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid told reporters that starters will play the first half of Saturday's game against Cardinals. Again, okay, it's the Cardinals. Nice, Andy. But also, Patrick Mahomes, however, and some others expect to play less. Okay, fine. But still, okay, Andy, I see what you're doing. That's actually smart. And when he says starters, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, probably a lot of that offensive line. Maybe most of the offensive line will stay in depending on the circumstances. But I think what we're really hearing this, if we're trying to read between the lines here, is that he wants to see more out of his receivers. He wants to see more out of his backs. He like his skill position guys. I think this is a really big put you on the spot, like especially in the first couple series with Patrick on the field. He'll probably see like 2 drives. They definitely want to get some good, looks with their with their receivers, because I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes, you want to get somebody going in that receiving room. It can't just be the Travis Kelce show. You know what I mean? Juju Smith-Schuster at least was serviceable. They got him like 100 plus targets last year. I think he had like 90 catches. We could look at his stats in a sec. But still, you're talking about a void that now has to be filled with guys who weren't very serviceable last year, the Sky Moores. Like the other guys are gone. The Marquez Valdes-Scantling, like he's gone. People are having to step up. They have a rookie, Rashee Rice, who might even end up being a starter. So, I mean, this is definitely something where it's like Andy Reid wants to see his skill position guys get work, and especially right off the bat, if we're not seeing a Sky Moore bomb, in the first 2 drives, or a Rashee Rice bomb or something like that, where they're putting their guys on the spot, they're taking those shots with Patrick Mahomes, like, hey, can you do this? because this is what we're going to expect from you. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we need to see from you. You know, if you're going to be on the, if you're going to even stay on the field here in this fucking Super Bowl champ, you know, Super Bowl aspirations still for the next like foreseeable future. Like, if you're going to stay on the field in this team, we need to see you perform in these moments. Like, this is fucking preseason. If you can't do it here, you ain't doing it. You know what I mean? Granted, let's also pump the brakes. We saw Jamar Chase struggle in preseason for a glimmer, and then all of a sudden he's Jamar Chase now. Still, like, we know who Jamar Chase is, and we thought we were going to see him out of college. And for some reason, that one drop had just fucking freaked everybody out. It's like all of a sudden we're just cooling off Jamar, and then people got him in drafts that year, and he was like kind of a steal because he fucking slid for some reason. I know I passed on him. I felt bad for passing when I realized what was I just influenced by? Like, one drop in preseason, I gotta fucking chill on that, you know. And so we learn our lessons. We learn our lessons, right? So. We'll see what happens in this game. Again, it's against the Cardinals, which we went through their depth chart. It's a wasteland. It's pretty sad. It's gonna be even in the preseason, it's gonna be hard to watch, even for preseason standards, I guess I should say. But that said, it's still an excellent opportunity for Andy Reid to get his guys in. You know, his young, very inexperienced receiving core, specifically some really valuable reps against likely the first team defense of the Cardinals, granted, but it's still, you know, some pretty decent like game time atmosphere. So cool. Looking forward to Saturday. This is actually some really dope preseason action this weekend specifically. So I'm excited about that. You know, this is probably the last real preseason game that we'll get like valuable information from before it's just basically like a wash until the season actually starts. So pay attention to preseason this weekend. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins. Left tackle Teron Armstead suffered an apparent leg injury during practice and was carted off the field. That's not good. Like, that's a big part of their offense, right? Like, he's their left tackle. I don't know if he's a Pro Bowler, but he's definitely somebody who you talk about as like not just immediately replaceable. Like, you don't just like, so we'll keep an eye on him. I mean, let's actually just Google him real quick and see if there are any more reports. Because 6 hours ago, okay, it's the same report. Injured at the joint practice, carted to the locker room 4 hours ago. So says he's good. We'll get MRI. This is from the Dolphins Wire themselves. So, I kind of maybe trust that they're at least have a little bit more, accurate information. But he's on crutches. He's walking around. We've seen players with full-blown ACL tears that can do that too. So I won't speculate as to like, oh, based off of that, he's fine. But that is encouraging. No official word yet, but ignore your knee-jerk reactions. Regardless of severity, we'll take every precaution. So it looks like, obviously, this is scary, but they're gonna they carted him off the field. They're gonna take their care with him for sure. And I think hopefully we'll stay kind of tuned in to the situation, but hopefully it's not that serious and he can be ready for the start of the season, because he's a big part of this offensive line, and we know Miami's trying to make moves this year. They're and he's a big part of that. He's a big part of what they do. So yeah, let's hope he's okay. Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Dykes, they signed him. Depth, I don't know. It's irrelevant for the most part. Roster cuts. They got rid of their probably third string kicker. Sorry. New York Jets. This is definitely significant. Breece Hall made his official return to practice today after being activated from the PUP list this week. So that's dope. it's actually good news because I have been a little tentative when it comes to the Brees Hall thing, just because he's not even a full year removed off of the ACL tear, and he's like still okay. So it says he returns to full practice, but I feel like I also have heard reports not too long ago that he was not 100% confident on cutting in certain directions. So I think like let's see what the Jets actually say here on Jets.com. Jets fan and coaches have a smile. Aaron Rodgers, well, it was good to get him out there. So I said he can still run. That's for damn sure. Hall, who ran for 463 yards and 4 touchdowns as a rookie before he sustained an ACL in Week 7, took a handful of team reps for the first time this summer. He's continuing to ramp up and build up. He won't play in the game against Tampa Saturday, but anticipate that we're going to continue ramping him up to when we feel comfortable about his availability in Week 1. There was a lot of news. There was a lot of new at Thursday's practice. Oh, okay. Hall's new teammate, Dalvin Cook. But sometimes you need to rely on the alt. Okay, cute. Rodgers and wide receiver Randall Cobb played together for 10 seasons. Okay, cool. So I mean, just the reports are he's back at practice. They're definitely taking it easy still. Even if there's no real like specific report, at least in that article, about Brees' own feelings of how he feels. I think it's still worth noting that it's an injury like this, it takes a while for them to feel normal, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that the risk of re-injury is greater than when they would quote unquote feel normal. Obviously they're being cleared to return to full contact. The trainers feel comfortable to let him play basically, and that's fine. Obviously, we love to hear that encouraging news, but when you're talking about a guy who is granted after the Dalvin Cook news, we talked about this. His ADP has slid. He's now RB15. He's going middle third round, as opposed to like early second round, which was not really long ago, right before the Dalvin Cook signing. But I think not just with the Dalvin Cook signing, but with this injury just lurking, I think I'm a little skeptical about drafting him anywhere higher than like round 5. But you're never going to get him if you don't draft him in like round 3 or 4 at least. So that just shows you that, like, I think he's going to underperform at least early on. He could end up being a league winner for you. Like, that's very likely, in fact. So in that respect, if you think you can sustain maybe his lackluster performances for the first month, maybe 2 months of the season, which is like 5 to 6 games, or more potentially. Like, that's about half the season or more. But he comes on late in the year, and you can kind of sustain that like not great play from him because you have depth there that you built in maybe earlier or like later on, or you got lucky on one of the shots you're taking on like a late round flyer, whatever the case may be. Brees Hall is a guy, to me, like I said, he has league winning potential for sure. He's just somebody that personally, I wouldn't count on him early in the year, so I would draft around that, knowing that. But also, he's going a little too high, so I'd want him to slide. I'd want to take him on like the 4-5 turn or something like that. Perfect. But again, he's probably never going to get to you if you wait for him there. So it's a tough situation. The Dalvin Cook thing definitely throws a whole monkey wrench into this. But if you look where Dalvin Cook's going, it's like the inverse basically. He's going to obviously be more valuable, I believe, early on. So Dalvin Cook for sure, you're drafting him down here, RB24, mid 6th round basically, 5th, 6th round. He's going to fucking outperform that right off the bat. He's going to get like 10, 15, almost touching that 20 carry mark per game to start the season. He's going to at least get 12 to 15. I almost guarantee that. He has to do that for them. They need him to do that. Aaron Rodgers wants him to do that. They paid him to do that, essentially, $8.6 million. He's going to do that. As far as his longevity in that offense, Brees getting more and more healthy as the season goes on, barring any injuries, I understand why his long-term value might not be what people want it to be, and so that's why his ADP is so low. But we have to remember, nothing's guaranteed in this league, y'all. And that also means that nothing's guaranteed in fantasy, right? So if you're talking about like, how do I pick the closest thing to a sure thing? And that's my strategy, just to win week in, week out. Obviously, you want to have some balance there. You want to have some safe picks that you can count on for sure. But you also want to have some home run, hitters who can essentially win you a week or win you the league late on down the stretch, right? So you got to kind of like see the future in a way. I say that a lot. But when it comes to guys who, again, nothing's guaranteed. So do I want a guy who is more of a question mark, but could be potentially more valuable? Or am I wanting to maybe pick up a guy who I can count on for the first 3 to 4 weeks, guaranteed? Like there's like a very high chance that he is going to be the goal line back, the, first, second down guy, the guy that they give the 15, 20 potential carries to. Granted, they're going to be a pass heavy offense too, I believe, the Jets will. But Dalvin Cook will definitely still be a very big part of this offense. And frankly, like I'm super fine with picking Dalvin up in the 6th round and just plugging him in as like an RB2, which depending on the draft composition there, I mean, that's a steal. That's a steal. Also, that adds depth to your team. I mean, whatever round, okay, so I could see Dalvin Cook just getting picked up even higher as we see the season get closer and closer. Like I said the other day, that gap between Breece Hall and Dalvin could just diminish and diminish and diminish. But we'll see. Spent a lot of time on that news, but it is big news. So those, we talked about kind of like the relevancy there. Cool. Keep an eye on Breece Hall. We'll see if he, hopefully doesn't have any setbacks, but continues to progress and develop in the way that we want him to. And then that would justify picking him up. If he gets more work early on, that would justify picking him up kind of in those earlier rounds that we've seen him getting picked up at. They signed a cornerback, Nehemiah Shelton, and then they cut Demarie Crockett. And then Dalvin Cook will wear number 33. Sweet. His first 5 years he wore that. Great. Good for him. Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles. Outside linebacker Hassan Reddick is having surgery to address a thumb injury suffered in Monday's practice. Damn. Insider Ian Rappaport reports, per source, Rappaport adds that all this is so that Reddick is ready for the start of the season. So it looks like it's more maintenance. Or sorry, it's not maintenance, but obviously there's, he clearly suffered an injury in Monday's practice. But it's clearly not something that they view as endangering his availability for the beginning of the season. So he's a big part of that defense. Good that he'll be back. Just, keep an eye on that. And then the last one, probably the biggest story of the day. I'm sure a lot of you who have notifications on your phones probably saw this one. But Russell Gage suffered a torn patellar tendon in Wednesday's practice and is out for the 2023 season. Coach Todd Bowles confirmed to reporters today. So that's rough. You never want to see that, especially in preseason. A guy like this, super talented, kind of underperformed last year because he did get hurt and has had a history of not being able to necessarily stay on the field, for long stretches of the season, but was kind of like a boomer bust guy, especially when Tom Brady, was throwing to him for a bit, and he, before that he was actually on the Hawks. So sorry, the Falcons, Atlanta, and he was awesome. He was awesome in the stretches that we saw him play in. So they were expecting him to play meaningful minutes for them this year. Obviously, that quarterback situation is not good by any stretch of the imagination. It's a fucking wasteland. Sorry, Baker Mayfield. Sorry, whoever the backup there is. Let me just check. Kyle Trask. Sorry, but it's a wasteland there for quarterbacks. It's just a wasteland. And so, that obviously is bad news for anybody who was going to throw the ball there, whether it's Baker Mayfield or whether it's Kyle Trask, because apparently that job is not as secure for Baker as we initially thought. But it just hurts this whole team. It's one of those things, like I brought up, when you lose a guy like him, that just like diminishes your force multiplier substantially. I mean, you're taking a big chunk out of what your potential was going to be, and what your potential attack plan was. The amount of talent that you have available to you. They already replaced him with Trey Palmer on the depth chart. Let's look at him. Let's look at him. Rookie, 6th round pick. 6 foot, tall guy. Decent size, but caught 4 catches in preseason. So he clearly, showed out from what they saw already. He caught the touchdown. Let's watch that. Oh wait, this is in college. Okay, so that's great. Nice bait. Would have loved to see that touchdown, but no, I mean, listen, like, this team is not going to be good. We know this already. They lost Russell Gage. Now this team's offense is going to be even more sad. But I think, if you pay attention to them throughout the season, they will have their moments. But if you're counting on Mike Evans to get you, and Chris Godwin to get you consistent points with Baker Mayfield, maybe Kyle Trask will be an upgrade to that passing attack. I don't even know. Like that's kind of ridiculous to say, but it's definitely something that is within the realm of possibility, because that's just kind of how cooked Baker Mayfield is at this point. But if we're looking at where Evans and Godwin are going, I mean, they're literally going 5 picks from each other. I mean, we talked about this when we broke down the depth chart, but still, wide receiver 28, wide receiver 29. You might as well pick them up at the exact same time. Or sorry, wide receiver 27, wide receiver 29. You might as well pick them up at the exact same time. You know what I mean? In terms of like, that's how they're being valued. Either of those, I believe, if Russell Gage didn't go down and he wasn't, and now he's not there for the rest of the season, I mean, we'll see how this Trey Palmer is, if he can just maybe support that wide receiver room enough to bring the pressure off of, so that Mike Evans, Chris Godwin aren't just always getting like a safety hung over the top of them, or they're getting double coveraged, close to the line. Then yeah, sure. Then maybe you could see a world where that offense is performing or outperforms this ADP that we're picking up Evans and Godwin at, who were value guys in a lot of people's minds. Whichever one you went for, you felt like that was a value grab when you grabbed them here at this ADP. I don't know if I feel that way anymore with the absence of Russell Gage, just because I can't trust, again, this new guy, Trey Palmer, to step up and take that pressure off, or even be as much of a threat as what Russell Gage has been in the past, and know that he was going to be this year, right? So it's a lot to say that, like, I'm worried about the Bucs now. I'm worried about their ADP. Even though their ADP wasn't great to begin with, They were already kind of like value guys, but now I think they slide even more. I'm definitely sliding on them even more. And frankly, we already know I'm really low on Rashad White, so we don't even have to go over that. But I think this hurts him too. I think this just hurts the whole offense. Sorry, Russell Gage, about that. Get well soon, brother. But this is a big blow to this offense, which wasn't, this offense wasn't going to be good, but they're playing in a bad division. And so they at least were going to, have some soft matchups throughout the year. But now, I don't know. They still could, but we'll see. That does it for the news. Covered a lot happened today. That's pretty cool though, that we were able to kind of go through that here together. Some good news, some bad news. Obviously the Russell Gage thing is bad, but I'm glad we got to go through that. Let's talk about some spicy take that I have. We're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna type this man's name out. So, Bijan Robinson, the hot young rookie that everybody is so excited about. The Falcons picked him up with the 8th pick overall. And you know what? I think he's going to be a bust this year, guys. I think, or at least let me just explain. I think he's going to underperform his ADP. Now, just let me explain to you why I think Bijan Robinson is going to underperform his ADP going at RB4. So already we can probably talk about, and this probably would make a case for the Bijan Robinson pickup this early. But I'm going to make a case for why Bijan Robinson is being drafted too high, right? So we've only really seen a handful of rookies come into the league at the running back position who were high draft picks in the NFL themselves, come in, get drafted this highly in fantasy, whether it was Saquon Barkley when he first showed up, he was like a top 5 fantasy pick. Whether it was Ezekiel Elliott when he showed up, he was like a top 6 fantasy pick, right? I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm looking at these guys like, you're really going to go draft this rookie at 6 overall? I'm obviously a little hesitant to draft rookies this high. I think Saquon was the first guy that I really felt comfortable drafting as high as he was going when he was a rookie. But there are a lot of different scenarios. So the Zeke scenario, new rookie quarterback that year, rookie running back that year. Not a lot of film on either of them, obviously. And Zeke he looked the best he ever looked in that year. Like, he never looked better than his rookie year. I think we can all kind of just agree on that. Maybe his second year he looked good, but they just, I don't know, maybe I don't know if he got hurt. I forget what happened his second year, but he just didn't perform maybe as well as he did in his first year. I don't think he ever quite got that. I know his first 2 years were just top tier though, right? I think his third year was when he took that step backwards, if I'm not mistaken. Seems so fucking long ago at this point. Regardless, that happened with him. Okay, sure. Zeke had a great first year. Saquon had a great first year. I think Saquon might have got hurt towards the end of his first year. Can't remember. But we haven't really seen that happen with a lot of rookies, right? Like, I'm trying to think of some guys, like the Jonathan Taylors, who Jonathan Taylor, his rookie year was not as exciting as last year, right? Like, Jonathan Taylor didn't have his crazy year until 2 years ago, right? I mean, obviously last year he was the number 1 overall pick. But my point is, if you're drafting a rookie that high and you're counting on him to be a Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott or somebody like that, when we know that there's not a lot of those to begin with, And sure, there are ADPs that reflect that. And obviously, this is a hot take. So, you know, I'm trying to just give some hotness here, some heat. But like the fact that it's not even a question. Like how are you picking up Bijan Robinson over Nick Chubb? I could see Derrick Henry. Okay, I could see Derrick Henry because maybe Derrick Henry's on the back end of his career, and like he takes a step back this year that he can't possibly get the same amount of volume, and so therefore he's not nearly as valuable because his value is volume, right? Derrick Henry is not really that efficient. So I could see that, but like, and obviously once you get down here, like, sure, okay, you can obviously take Bijan, you know, but once we get out of the first round, like pick Bijan up, you're crazy. But if we're talking about in the first 10 picks, and I'm gonna go grab Bijan over even wide receivers, you know, like Devontae Adams, like AJ Brown, like Amon-Ra, like who's gonna have a crazy year this year, you know what I mean? Garrett Wilson. If we're expecting that offense to cook the way that they're supposed to cook, then my boy Garrett Wilson's gonna fucking eat, man. Like he's gonna eat big time. So I think we're just a little too high on Bijan. I think we gotta pump the brakes. I will say, let's give this man the respect he deserves by like at least just watching some of his highlights. I think we can at least do that. We've seen some of them here. Let's watch this, because I know he's flashy, but like, does the eye test really tell you that in the NFL he's just gonna right off the rip? I mean, he's definitely a men playing amongst young boys right there. Like, oh my gosh, that stiff arm, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that's textbook stiff arm right there. That defender had no chance. Nice cut, nice balance. This might go from being an anti-Bijan take to being a pro-Bijan take, but we'll see. As we watch these highlights. Nice cut. Ooh, damn! Way to stay on your feet, brother. Way to stay on your feet, young blood. Oh shit. All right. He's looking good. Nice move. He's definitely got power. He's got good vision. Good balance. Way to stay in bounds right there. Brings it home. Yeah, gotta see that play again, I guess, from a different angle. Oh wait, no, that's a different play. Yeah, he likes to cut it out. He likes to cut out towards the sideline a lot. That's his main move. But it's crazy. It seems like he has the power to be a downhill running back up the, between the tackles. I mean, we saw that there. I mean, that hole was ginormous, so you're not gonna see that a lot of, in the NFL, at least behind the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons actually had, I think, like a top 10 rushing offense last year. Let's look at their rushing yards. Falcons 2022 rushing stats and leaders. So, I mean, let's see, against. All right, so look. So rushing leaders last year. If we're talking about rushing yards, the Falcons were, I'll probably have to make this bigger. If we're talking about rushing yards, right? The Falcons were in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10. So they were in the top 11. They just scratched the top 11, right? So they're barely a top 10. Obviously not a top 10. As when it comes to rushing yards, okay? Their rush first percentage, they were in the top 6. So that means that they rushed on their first down. Top 3 when you talk about totals. So top 6 when you were talking about percentages, top 3 when you're talking about totals. So they obviously rush the ball a lot, and they're pretty effective when you come to when it comes to their rushing totals. Their yards per carry, middle of the pack when it comes to average. Middle of the pack when it comes to average. So, they're not up there with the Chargers, who have the Austin Ecklers, or the Giants, who have the Saquon Barkleys. The Lions had a pretty high yard per carry average last year. But the Lions also rushed. They were top 4 rushing team. And their offensive line is like a top 3 offensive line. So, I guess I'm tempering my expectations a little bit because, yeah, the Falcons had 2,200 rushing yards as a team, and if like 1,000 of those or 1,200 of those goes to Bijan, we're stoked about that. He'll get some pass work too, even though we haven't seen a lot of pass work from him out of college. So we'll see if that even actually translates into something in the NFL. But like, they like Bijan. They want Bijan to have that workload, right? Like, so if they give him maybe, okay, if you can say 1,400 of those yards goes to Bijan. Let's actually see what the breakdown was when it comes to their rushing last year. So their breakdown last year with rushing was Algier was the only one who broke the 1,000-yard mark, and he had 210 attempts. So if you just say automatically, you just replace Algier with Bijan, he gets the same amount of attempts, 210 attempts. That's a lot. We could maybe bump that yardage total up because he will be more effective, even though, Algier rushed for 4.9 yard average. That's pretty solid. 64.7 yards a game. Come on, guys. Like that's who they still have on their team. So it's not like that's just going to go away. I could see Cordarrelle Patterson just fading into the background. He's 32. I'm so impressed with how he has just made this resurgence in his career and has become a relevant player again, not only in the NFL, but then in fantasy, which is was a really big deal, actually. You know what I mean? So good on you, brother. But I think it's time, and I think this team knows, and I think Cordarrelle Patterson knows, it's time to let the young guys take over. And so that means that now we're talking about potentially here in Atlanta here, the best 1-2 running back punch. It was maybe arguably last year, like Zeke and Pollard, right? But I think you now have an argument to be made that it's Algier and our boy Bijan, right? So and not even, because look at the rushing yards here. You still had teams like the Texans somehow that had fucking 2,900 just about rushing yards. I don't even know how that's possible. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe that's all they fucking did, because they couldn't throw the ball. They just had to rush it. So maybe that's why. I get that. But then you have the Bears. A large part of that was Justin Fields. We know this. Then you have the Seahawks, who, that's impressive. That's a lot. I mean, Kenneth Walker has a lot to do with that. But let's not forget, they had other guys that were getting in the mix there. TJ Dallas was there. Rashad Penny was a big part of that. I think he had maybe 700-800 yards or something like that on the season. So, and then we get down to the Lions. Anyways, I'm getting off track. This is supposed to be a Bijan hot take, but I guess I'm now convincing myself, like, Bijan Robinson, okay, he'll get the volume. If you say he plugs in and gets 210 carries, the very same 210 that Tyler Algier got, and then Tyler Algier just takes a step back, gets his 144 that Cordarrelle Patterson got, right? I mean, man, he only got 3 rushing touchdowns. Cordarrelle got all the touchdowns. 8 touchdowns is a lot. Man, I mean, it's such a hard take, man. This is actually it's becoming more of a harder and harder take to make, and I'm glad that we're doing this live, because to see somebody talk about Bijan Robinson in a very negative way to start off this take, myself, to turn around and potentially admit that yes, maybe Bijan is still overvalued in my eyes, but would still be worth picking up right at the back of the second round. I might, if a couple guys like, if like Stephon Diggs, who I think might take a step back this year, so I probably wouldn't draft him, over Bijan potentially, but like definitely not picking up CeeDee Lamb. But like Devontae, I probably still pick him up over Bijan. Nick Chubb probably still pick him over Bijan. But there's still some guys that might still pick up over Bijan up here, but okay, he's not as like off the mark as I was first initially making him out to be. The potential there, just the fact that offense is like primed to take a step forward, just based off of the the talent infusion that they've received. Yes, young talent, rookies, as a matter of fact. I mean, let's take a look at their depth chart. Their depth chart is riddled with rookies, but maybe in a good way, But Desmond Ridder, he's not a rookie, but he might as well be a fucking rookie. You know what I mean? Like, he's a 3rd round pick. Didn't see a lot of games last year, or at least his games were towards the back half of the season, and that season was already lost. They were playing against teams that really weren't in the mix towards the end of the season, where he did get those wins, and I'm sure that was really valuable. He had a long passing shot of 40 yards, a 40-yard pass, which is great. Pass for 224 yards. So we know that this team is, he had over 26 attempts each game. So it's not like, and then he had 9 carries. It wasn't getting a ton of yardage, didn't get any touchdowns, had 38 yards in that first game. But so he's not a threat when it comes to the rushing. And there's not a lot of weapons here when it comes to passing. You do have the Drake London situation. Mac Hollins coming over from the Raider Town, Raider Nation. I'm sure like any Raider fan will speak highly of Mac. He was serviceable, but we're not sitting here talking about like Mac Hollins is like a bona fide number 2 receiver in the NFL. I don't think that's a hot take. You know what I mean? It's like Mac Hollins probably not a bona fide number 2, but and then you have Scott Milbody. So this team is gonna struggle to get offense going. My biggest fear, and this is probably the most legit part of this take, that's not just based in like rookie bias, right? My legit fear here is that this offense struggles to get the passing game going, and therefore the defenses won't respect the pass, and therefore the defenses won't respect the run either, or they'll over respect the run, because you have a hot young rookie like Bijan coming in, and everybody's hearing this hype. Everybody knows kind of what the game plan is. We saw, Saquon Barkley and Zeke do it, not too long ago as rookies. So we know it's possible. Why would defenses want to let that happen to them? You know what I mean? They're going to want to stop that guy. So if you can't stand in the pocket and pass to a guy like an Amari Cooper to get your boys, to get the pressure off your running back, or like a guy like, Odell Beckham, who was there when Saquon was there. Odell Beckham was a very hot, young, respected wide receiver. People were terrified that he was just going to torch you every single week. Saquon had that his rookie year. So we can't forget these types of things. These factor into the success somebody has their first year in the NFL, no matter how talented they are. So, and we're not talking about the Giants back then as they were like great, but they weren't like as disrespected as I think they are now, because you had that Odell factor. The team was definitely still in the mix for playoffs potentially at that point. there wasn't a clear-cut number one team in that division, right? The Giants were pretty much the division favorites for a lot of that stretch of time. In the early part of Saquon's career, at least maybe for that first year, at least. So that's a very different scenario than the one that we're talking about with Bijan Robinson. So that's my biggest fear with him. But again, like ADP, if you want to go and grab him where he's going right now, 9th pick overall, RB4, I could still make an argument. I just did against why you would want to do that, but go for it. I won't hate on you, and frankly, you probably saved me the agony of going through, back and forth of should I pick him up, should I not pick him up, because I'm still on the fence right now. Like, let's be honest, what we saw from his highlights alone, like, let's just return to those highlights for a second, just appreciate some of the stuff he was doing as a young guy in college here. I mean, just that whole blocking setup was just broken down. Like, that was terrible, like, blocking for that play at least, and he still made it work. Good on you. Nice. He likes to get around the edge. He's got that speed. Definitely got that edge speed. Yeah. Defensive ends, don't stand a chance against this kid. You will never tackle this guy. As a defensive end. Unless it's like just the worst blocking ever, and you're just free to like hit him as hard as you want. But like, my goodness, this guy just doesn't go down. He's man, somebody who likes to stay on his feet. Whoo! I mean, the more I see of him, the more I'm like seeing flashbacks from Saquon's highlights as a rookie. But like, let's do a little thought experiment. We see how good Bijan looks as a rookie here. And granted, they went to different schools. But let's look at Saquon Barkley's rookie highlights. Or college highlights, sorry. Let's look at his college highlights. I mean, already they absolutely look similar, but we'll just keep watching. I'll leave the but for a sec. Hold on. Dang, almost ripped that one off. There is a difference. And this is what I'll say. Top end speed. Okay? Let's do this real quick. Bijan 40. We'll watch his 40. We'll at least give him that. No way those knees hold up. This is 5 months ago. Only injury he's had is elbow injury. He runs like a bow-legged cowboy though. That's kind of fucked up. Ooh, okay, 4.47. That's solid. I will say I don't know, what this guy's talking about. A bow-legged cowboy. I guess. Yeah. I mean, he definitely doesn't run super straight. That wasn't like the best. He definitely would, I think, be faster if he didn't get off there in a weird, awkward way. He kind of staggered there, but okay, 4.45, 4.47. Let's look at Saquon's. What'd I tell you? Top end speed, and I didn't even have to know the numbers for real. And I already knew just based off the eye test. But hey, just don't let me tell you. Why don't you watch? Much cleaner, just less of this kind of movement and more just straight up and down. I mean, 4.41. Clean release. I mean, we're not sprinting here. Obviously, we're talking about the NFL. this doesn't always translate in terms of 40 speed and relevancy, right? But it's a good indicator of somebody's top end speed and somebody's running technique when you're open field, just like it's just you in the end zone basically. And yeah, maybe you got to juke a couple guys, but like the goal is really to just outrun everybody else. Well, Saquon, I think, is more capable of doing that and was more capable of doing that as a rookie, his rookie year, than this guy Bijan. Granted, again, like, you know, 4.47 is not slow. That's fast. We're basically splitting hairs here. We're talking about a 600ths of a fucking second difference here. But sometimes that's the difference of like a guy getting his hand around your ankle and bringing you down, or a guy just getting his hand around the back of your cleat and you're off to the races. So, like that's the most I'll hate on Bijan Robinson. Like, look at this. And we saw him get catches in college too. I mean, look at that, dude. That was such a nasty, carry from the center. I mean, catch from the middle of the field in the middle of just a whole bunch of dudes, and he just shakes all of them and just goes, dude. He just goes. I mean, I miss rookie Saquon. Every year I'm like, man, can Saquon be a rookie again? Oh man. I mean, what's remarkable about Saquon is that, guys like Zeke have dropped off the face of the fucking earth when it comes to fantasy relevancy, and even like, NFL relevancy in a way. But Saquon is still around. And even Dalvin Cook, who's like Saquon's age, is not nearly as productive or as coveted as Saquon still is when we're talking about fantasy. Or even in the NFL. I mean, we see that with just the money that Saquon got, despite that not, I think, being nearly enough. But compared to what other guys are getting, Dalvin Cook only got 8.6. And the Vikings didn't want him anymore. They fucking just let him go. They're like, we got a guy. His name is Alexander Madison, and he's our new cook in the kitchen. No pun intended. So, yeah, the difference is clear when you talk about just the talent of a Saquon coming out of his college, his rookie year, and a Bijan. So, and also, it was the Saquon show. Like I said, obviously minus the passing attack with Odell and company. But when you talked about that backfield, you weren't worried about Eli or when Dan Jones took over eventually getting touchdowns, vulturing touchdowns from him. You didn't care about anybody else in that backfield. Not anybody was taking that guy's, touches. So, and we saw with his volume. So I think Bijan will not see even close to 250 carries, 300. He might see close to 250. He might not get over 250. I don't know if they want him to, but if you're drafting him at the 9th pick and he's not getting worked in the passing game as much as like maybe Saquon was his first year, again, that's too high. That's a little too rich for me. I'm spending a lot of time on this Bijan take, but I know I'm going back and forth, but it seems like I might be not, but I'm standing pat. It's too valuable for me. It's just too much, too high of a draft capital that you're wasting on this guy. So, that's my hot take. That's my spicy take for the day. We'll get those down. We'll get those down. You know what I mean? Obviously, this Bijan take was a little flip floppy, but my future takes will be a little bit more solid and spicy. So we're gonna end this stream with a casual little mock draft, courtesy of ESPN Fantasy, and we're gonna do something interesting with this mock. So we're gonna go into a 12-team standard. Find another mock, you bastards. Ah, fuck. You gotta be super fast on this. All right, head-to-head mock. We're going. starts. I'm gonna go at the 4 position. Turn to draft waiting room. All right, we got 4 minutes to talk here. So this is gonna be cool. You know, I think my strategy going in at the 4 spot here is to go for one of these top guys, obviously. So I want an Austin Eckler if I can get him. If a Jamar slips to me because somebody picks up like a Cooper Kupp or Travis Kelce, which we've seen people do, you know, like that's, or Tyreek even, you know, that's not out of the realm of possibility. And Jamar Chase slips because of maybe the Joe Burrow news or whatever it is, I'm more than happy to pick up Joe Burrow at the 4, or I'm sorry, Jamar Chase at the 4. And then, you know, we'll see what happens there. We're talking about the back end of that. So, you know, 24 picks later, we're talking about Chris Olave, Najee Harris being around, T. Higgins being around. I would be more than happy to pick up Chris Olave or T. Higgins on that turn. I don't think I'm fucking around with the Najee Harris this year. I just, that team, despite maybe positive rumblings about Kenny Pickett and George Pickens and like stuff that, you know, should excite you about that team, I'm just worried that Najee specifically just isn't as good as we thought he was. You know what I mean? Like he's going as an RB11. Like that's pretty high. I know the Steelers have been a really solid running back team in recent memory, or even just over the course of the last like 20, 30 years. Even that's kind of just been their identity. Hey, what's up? Thanks, Inclusive Cordy, for the follow. Appreciate it. But you know what I mean? Like we know Pittsburgh as a high run offense team. Like they like their run game. So the guy there is usually like very valuable. But frankly, I'm a little worried that, like I was alluding, I don't think Najee maybe is as good as he has been in the past, or as we think he's supposed to be this year. Their guy behind him, Jalen Warren. I mean, just a couple different shots of camp that I've seen. Jalen looks a lot sharper than Najee. You know, obviously Najee is a very powerful guy. Like maybe he's not supposed to be as quick as maybe some of these other smaller guys, but you know, Najee's not supposed to be a slouch. I mean, you're drafting him as an RB11. So you're expecting him to be consistent for you all year long. But like if a Jalen Warren's waiting for him in the wings, you know, to potentially take some of those touches from him, if that's something that, you know, a Mike Tomlin wants to do, which is, you know, spread it around a little bit more in that backfield, because frankly, maybe it's not working with, you know, with Najee as the number 1 there, or the workhorse there. They want to split it up a little bit more. And so that obviously hurts Najee's value tremendously. But, you know, you're looking at where Jalen Warren's going. Obviously, he's more of a handcuffed at this point. I don't think he's going to be even relevant at the beginning of the season. I mean, nobody thinks he is. He's definitely going at the back end of drafts, if at all. Like, he's off of a lot of people's boards. So it's not necessarily like, oh, go out and get Jalen Warren or draft him even. But I think it's more of keep your eye on this backfield, because, again, Najee going as high as he is, we're expecting this backfield to have a lot of value, right? If we talk about their rushing from last year, though, I mean, they were like a bottom 10 rushing team. They only had 1,838 rushing yards. So, like, I mean, that's down there with, like, you know, granted, some pretty good teams here, you know, the Chiefs and the Bengals, but these are teams that they didn't need to run. Their passing attack is incredible. We know who the quarterbacks are there. You know, the Bills even down here. But still, I mean, if you're wanting to be anything like your identity has shown us, 1,800 yards, rushing yards on the season isn't going to cut it. So, you know, and Najee was a part of that team last year. You know, I think he might have gotten hurt. Okay, we got 3.5 minutes here. Let's not forget about our mock draft here. I can't tell you how many mock drafts I've just joined and then like, oh shit, it's all right, 5 minutes away. I go off and do some ADHD shit, and then I completely forget that my mock draft is starting. So, and then it's like I remember, and I'm 9 picks in, auto drafted, and it's like, fuck. Okay, well, that was fun. Next, good luck next mock draft. So we got 3 minutes. All right, we'll try to remember that. But yeah, so my point really is that on the back end of that, you know, 2-3 turn, if I have to stare down a Najee Harris and other guys like maybe a Travis Etienne or Joe Mixon, even a Jahmyr Gibbs. And I know I was talking so much shit about Breece Hall, but I would even go get him over a Najee Harris at that 2-3 turn if I'm on the back end of that, because I had the 4th pick overall, right? Which is where we're going here. I'm getting that 4th pick. So that's what I'm expecting to see in this 2-3 turn. So we'll see. We keep going a little further. We're talking about down here at the 3-5 turn, or sorry, 4-5 turn now. I might be inclined, if Justin Fields is around, to just go up and get Justin Fields. That could be an absolute easy money pick for me. People are super high on him. I mean, he's going as QB6. He could even outperform that, though, based off of just what we've seen out of the preseason with DJ Moore involved now. I think that even like this whole offense is going to take a step forward in my mind this year. That division is completely up for grabs. I don't think the Vikings are any threat to, even in, tough division matchups. I think the Bears are just going to roll these, all of these guys, and all these teams in this conference or in this division. So, that just means good things for Justin Fields, who, I mean, let's not forget, he rushed for like fucking 800 plus yards last year. Let's really remember here what Justin Fields did. Let me just look at Justin Fields. So 2023, I want to see his 2022 stats, my guy. $2023. Fuck. Come on. Okay. 2022. What can I just see his fucking stats? Okay. 2022. This man had 160 carries for 1,143 rushing yards. I mean, that's a running back. That's like an RB, like top 15 RB. And you're telling me he's going to take a step forward as a passer this year? He's going to pass more. He's going to complete more of those. He's not going to have this garbage trash completion percentage. He's going to have better weapons around him. I like Justin Fields a lot. I think he's definitely somebody who could be a steal of a draft because he could end up finishing as a top 3 quarterback, similar to the Justin Hurts of last year. What's going on here? No way did I miss that. Okay, well, I auto-picked Austin Eckler. Let's make sure I don't auto-pick somebody else. What the fuck? Okay, so let's see the pick history here. Okay, so Jamar was off the board, so I wasn't going to get Jamar. I wasn't going to... Derrick Henry? What? I could have gotten Christian McCaffrey at the... We won't... Okay, it's a mock draft. It's a mock draft, y'all. Let's... But my goodness, people are insane. Derrick Henry, number 2. This guy goes Travis Kelce. How did I not get Christian McCaffrey? How did it not just auto-pick me CMC right there? Slam dunk him, dude. He's the top ADP guy at that point, right? Come on, dude. I don't know. There's something funny about this ESPN. I thought I had 3 whole minutes. I know 3 minutes didn't just go by that fast. I don't know. Not a good look, ESPN. Anyways, all right, so Patrick goes, Stephon goes, Tyreek goes, AJ goes. All right, that's fine. It's to be expected. Josh Jacobs, that's a little strange to me. There's still a huge question mark there. We don't know what the fuck's going on there. I would have definitely picked up a Nick Chubb or Bijan. That's interesting. So we saw Nick Chubb go before Bijan here. So there are some people out there in the world who aren't, who don't think maybe my Bijan take is that spicy. And they also would go pick up a Nick Chubb over a Bijan. So thank you. Thank you, whoever Team Anderson is. Thank you for drafting Team Elias. Thank you for drafting Nick Chubb over Bijan and showing the fair people on this stream and in the world that it's not that hot of a take to not want to pick up Bijan as high as he's going. That's a round 2 pick, y'all. That's a round 2 pick for Bijan. That's totally fine for me. I'm fine with picking up Bijan there. I even might pick up Joe Mixon over Bijan, just circumstantially, just because Joe Mixon literally is going to get the volume. He's the only guy there. And even if they only have to run him 15, 20 times a game, like, he's going to get a touchdown. I think he's going to literally have like a 16, 17 total touchdown total this year. Like, he'll end the season with like 17 touchdowns, similar to like the Austin Eckler or some shit. You know, Saquon goes so late. So late. Why, who are these people in this draft? I'm almost sad that I picked the 4 spot. I wish I would have actually just gone like 11 or 12, because of the, like, who's pick, like, my goodness, Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. I could have theoretically had both of those guys. You know what I mean? Okay, so Devontae goes. All right, so I'm sitting here, round 2, pick 9. I don't have a lot of options here. There's Jalen Waddle. There's Amon-Ra. I'm a little worried about Amon, but I still think I'm going to pick him up because I trust that offense. I know if he's healthy, he's literally going to outperform that ADP. He's going to be a wide receiver 1. He's going to be a top, he'll be a top 5 wide receiver. I believe he'll finish the year similar to Stephon Diggs when he had that resurgent year. And, you know, like, all of a sudden just him and Josh Allen were just clicking. And he finished as, like, I think the tight end or the wide receiver 1 that year. That's what I'm seeing from Amon-Ra this year. I'm excited about him, and I think that's a steal to go and get him in the second round as where I did. I think it's just because of that questionable mark. People are worried about that health, you know, and maybe the Jameson Williams thing. I don't think that should even matter, but I'm happy I got him where I did. I'll just say that. So Jonathan Taylor goes. Cool. Najee goes way later than he was slated to go in this ADP. So I think that's actually no, that's about where he went in this ADP. So we'll see if you know, my rankings are correct, or these rankings over here are correct, and ESPN follows them pretty decently. It'll probably get hairy towards the middle rounds. We'll see. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith next. Cool. Let's see, actually. Yeah, I guess you guys can't see that, huh? I'll do this. Fuck it. I'll just say the picks. Ooh, okay. So this is interesting. So right before me, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, DK Metcalf all went off the board. There's still T. Higgins. There's still Deebo Samuel. It's a slam dunk T. Higgins for me right here. I am a Bengals fan, but I just love this offense so much. Even if I wasn't a fan of this offense, I think it's hard to deny that this will be an offense that likes to be pass heavy. They are pass heavy. You know, Joe Burrow is one of the best 3 quarterbacks in the league, arguably top 2. I mean, if we're being real in terms of passing attack and passing efficiency and accuracy, right? So I'm more than happy to get a part of that passing attack. Would have liked to get Jamar, like I was saying at the beginning of this draft. It would have been cool to have him slip to 4. But, you know, he went right before me at 3, and that's to be expected. He is a top-tier talent on a top-tier team when it comes to fantasy production, just overall NFL production. So, makes sense. But like I said, I'm happy with going T. Higgins here. Not mad at all. I have some ideas for how I'm going to fill out this RB situation in the next couple rounds. Might see what the quarterback situation looks like in the next couple rounds to see if I want to go get one of those guys. If somebody who, you know, like a Joe Burrow potentially, or like I said, a Justin Fields on that 4 or 5 turn is sitting there waiting for me because nobody wanted him in front of me, I'm gonna go get him. You know, that's what I want here. So next couple picks after me, Deebo Samuel went, then Josh Allen, then Aaron Jones, then Travis Etienne. So Josh Allen, second quarterback off the board. Cool. I'm not really worried about it. Like I said, I still have some other guys in mind that I'm going to be perfectly happy to pick up on that 4 or 5 turn. That's like kind of my target quarterback. That's my last, my like dead last. We cannot like drop dead mark of if I don't pick a quarterback up by this round, I'm punting basically till the end of the draft, right? If I don't get those top 6, top 7 guys like Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, who just went, even down to a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Herbert, but obviously a Justin Fields. That if I get out of that tier, I'm punting that position. I hope I can get one of those guys, right? Like I don't want to, but in a 12-person league, and there's only 8 of those guys that I'm willing to get by round 5 or 4 or 5, then like that's the risk I'm taking. I mean, I already went 3 rounds without getting any of them, so we're coming up here on the 4 or 5 turn, and Justin Fields is off the board. See, Lamar Jackson is off the board. So already my plan is kind of getting a monkey wrench thrown into it. Jahmyr Gibbs goes next, and then Chris Olave. I'm a couple picks away here. We're going to see what happens. Jerry Jeudy goes, Christian Watson. So a couple of receivers. I guess there are some people who needed receivers. But like I said, I'm more than happy to take a guy, a quarterback here in this 4-5 turn. I have plans for this empty running back spot. I don't think I need to get a Kenneth Walker or a Ramondre here, especially with the news, from Zeke signing there. So I'm happy as a fucking clam in high tide with this pick with the Joe Burrow snag, because he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be healthy at the to start the season. So if we just look at my team real quick, I think it's fleshing out really nicely here. So I got Joe Burrow, I got Austin Eckler, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I got T. Higgins. So I'm really happy about my receivers. Super, super strong here. I have a really studly running back, so I can I'm kind of fine with waiting a little bit and grabbing maybe a B tier, C tier running back, because I know I have Eckler, who's the reigning touchdown leader, to make up for that. Obviously, we will see that come down this year. That's not why I picked him here. Frankly, he was auto picked for me. I would have actually picked up CMC because he slid. But regardless, I've got the Joe Burrow, T. Higgins stack, and then let's check it out. I got some some options here on the back end of round 5, or on the top of round 5. So what I'm actually gonna do here, it might seem crazy. It actually is to me here, but I'm picking up Cam Akers. I am. I'm fine with him being my RB2. That team is bad. We know this. That team will not be good this year. I mean, it actually is largely reliant and dependent on the health of Stafford and Cooper Kupp, for sure. We know that tandem is the engine of this offense, and essentially the whole team. But Cam Akers is going to be a big part of that too. And we know that Sean McVay, he is a little unreliable when it comes to, we can't trust who is the guy in this backfield. It's always somebody new, right? It's usually, like a backfield running back by committee. And it's something that it's like any given week, you don't know who the guy will be. And we've seen that happen, with guys like Darrell Henderson. He was always a part of this mix. Oh, hey, what's up, AJ Brown? What's up? Thanks for the follow. We saw, that with Sony Michel when he was in this backfield. So, but now Cam Akers is really the only guy, he's the only guy here. So I'm fine if he's my RB2. I got him at the top of round 5. I'm stoked about that. I have no problems with that at all. So, I like this team. I'm really digging this team already. Like for to be at position 4, which I'm not a big advocate of being high in the draft. I usually like being towards the back end of drafts. I like that first 2, round 1, round 2 bend. I like that turn. I like the value that's there this year. I'm not really stoked either on like the top 5, 6, top 10 guys, who are going in terms of ADP. So Usually I like to be on the back end of drafts when we're talking draft position, but I'm really liking how this position is turning out, at least with the picks that I have right now. Like I said, I mean, there were some weird ones at the beginning of this draft. There was Derrick Henry at pick 2 overall. There was, some other weird shit. Let's see. Round 1, Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry goes 2 overall. CMC doesn't go till 6. Like, if I didn't auto draft Austin Eckler here because I just didn't hear the fucking draft go off, I would have picked up CMC here, no problem. Or, no doubt. Easy pick. So, and then you had some weird stuff like Josh Jacobs going in round 2, even with the news that, like, he might not even see the field this year. Just he's not even in Las Vegas, and that team isn't even, looking. Hey, what's up? Thanks, Ferrari, for the follow. That team isn't even looking to sign him right now. So it's just it's tough to see guys like this going ahead of Bijan Robinson or Nick Chubb. I would have definitely not picked up Josh Jacobs over either of these guys. Even a Saquon. How is Saquon going in the 17th? So I'm drafting with some folks here. A couple of them are on auto draft for sure, but some weird picks are going on. So that could attribute to why I feel so strong about my team right now. Some players maybe slid to me that shouldn't have. But like I said, really stoked about Cam Akers. 5-12. Yeah. 5 through 12 is definitely the spot to be, I believe, in terms of draft position, personally. So I'm solid on my running backs. I'm solid on my receivers. I don't know if I really need to get a George Kittle or a tight end here. So I'm just going to keep getting wide receiver depth. I like the fact that DeAndre Hopkins, who was obviously the top of the board there, but I like that he's stepping into a team that needs him to produce. They need a guy like him to be relevant in that offense. They're paying him money to do so. I don't know if we've all heard about the Treylon Burks news, but that doesn't sound very encouraging. And so with DeAndre Hopkins kind of being like the only guy there, I'm a Bengals fan personally. What about you guys? Put your teams in chat. Houday Nation though, Bengals all day, baby. But like I was saying, like if Treylon Burks is somebody who we've seen kind of gets banged up and he doesn't really stay on the field a lot, DeAndre Hopkins is super reliable. I'm happy with picking up DeAndre Hopkins as like a flex depth kind of position. AJ Brown. Oh, let me guess. Eagles. Of course. So I'm looking at more depth here for my squad. I don't want to pick a tight end up yet. I'm going to go ahead and get Dalvin Cook. I'm surprised he's still around. Like I was saying earlier in the stream, he's going to be relevant right off the bat for this team. So if I need, for whatever reason, Cam Akers like doesn't pay off for whatever reason, the first couple weeks, it's like that Sean McVay weird, business where it's like all of a sudden Cam Akers is in the doghouse and I need to plug a guy in right away. I'm fine with Dalvin Cook. He offers me that depth, to pick him up in the back of that, round 8 or whatever it was. I'm totally fine with doing that. So, round 7, I believe. Round 7. So totally fine with doing that. It's Chargers all day, baby. No faux Tigers in here. Okay, Matty Boots, calm yourself a little bit. Okay, Rams. I can respect that. LA baby, for sure. Rams are definitely like my second favorite. I grew up in a time here in LA where we didn't have a main team. Like the Raiders were gone, the Chargers weren't here yet, the Rams were gone too. I grew up in that era where we just didn't have a football team really. So I was like 5-6 years old and I saw playing NFL Blitz. I was like, oh, the Bengals, tight jersey. And so yeah, and Eagles could be a third favorite if my dad wasn't a Cowboys fan. You know what I mean? But I actually am a huge Jalen Hurts fan and a huge AJ Brown fan. So I mean, I might as well be an Eagles fan. Let's be real. Hell yeah. But so we're coming into the back of round 8 here, or the top of round 8. Guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba just went off the board. Jacoby Myers went off the board. Kirk Cousins, Treylon Burks went off the board. Khalil Herbert. He was what? I don't know. We'll leave that one there. But Brandon Cooks just went. So, I think Cooks will be good. I'm worried about just Dallas in general. I don't know if Dak is good, man. Like, I think that's just what it comes down to. I don't know if he's good. I think he had security blanket in Amari Cooper. Okay, so I'm on the clock here. All right, so I've got 3 running backs. I've got 3 receivers. There's no real tight end that I see in here. I'm punting that position right now, so I'm just building more depth here. So what I want to do is I want to take a shot on a guy on a good offense who could end up being like the number 1 guy here. So that's Sky Moore. That's Sky Moore. So obviously we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how that situation is going to pan out. But I still believe that a piece of that offense is going to be valuable. And if a piece of that offense is the wide receiver 1 and Sky Moore takes that step forward this year, oh my gosh, I'm stoked about that. This one's a no-brainer for me. I'm still punting on the tight end position. I don't think I want to get somebody here. I want to get more depth. And similar to Dalvin Cook, Jamal Williams will be playable in the first couple weeks, right? We know that Alvin Kamara's on suspension. We know that now Kendre Miller's injured, and that could potentially affect his availability at the beginning of the year. So really, it's and they're looking to sign more depth. So really, it's gonna be the Jamal Williams show for the first few weeks. Sorry, we love Pops, but he's a Cowboys fan, so we check on him weekly to make sure he's okay after their losses. Damn it, Matt, you're right about that. Pops love you, but it must be rough to be a Cowboys fan these days. But anyways, the Jamal Williams pick, it's to add depth. I already have guys who I know I can count on week in, week out. But in the off chance that some freak thing happens, God forbid anything happens to any of my starting guys, Jamal Williams is easily plug and playable. Easily just an awesome depth add. And frankly, I might even play him in the first week over guys like maybe DeAndre Hopkins in the flex, depending on that matchup week 1, because he's still getting involved with that team. Tannehill's not necessarily a fucking, gunslinger by any means. So that may take time to develop. So maybe I'm flexing Jamal Williams. I don't see that as being crazy or out of this world, at least in like a half PPR league. At least, half PPR is fine. Maybe PPR is a little different because DeAndre Hopkins will get a shit ton of catches. But if half PPR, Jamal Williams will get a touchdown week 1. He might even get 2. I mean, we're talking about like a guy who's gonna get goal line looks. How come you went Joey B so high? I like the pick, but he's questionable, isn't he? So news out of Bengals camp is that Joey B has been doing drills on the sidelines. Obviously, he's not worked into camp or practice just yet, but hold that thought. So I've got a lot of running back depth. I don't need any more running backs. I think the next play I have to make is either a wide receiver or, maybe a backup quarterback. So, in the event that Joe Burrow is potentially, hurt for the beginning of the season. So that's why I'm going to go Geno Smith. Now, the fact that he's going in round 10 is already kind of crazy to me. Thank you for the props on the Anchors pick. But the fact that Geno Smith was going in the 10th round, it's kind of crazy to me. I'm going to put a pin in that statement though real quick. Now I want to get some wide receiver depth, right? So I don't like Elijah Moore. Not really stoked on the Cowboys. We know this. So I'm going to go with a guy who, again, maybe it's just because I'm a Bengals fan, but Tyler Boyd is somebody who we know can be fantasy relevant. I'm not expecting him to do anything anytime soon. If anything, he's more of like an insurance handcuff pick for me. Normally with picks like this, on the back of your bench, my last 2 picks, I want to go for guys who can get me home runs, right? I want to go for guys who are going to be relevant later on in the season because they've broken out to some degree. I don't want the Adam Thielens anymore. I don't want the Elijah Mitchells or the Nico Collins or the KJ Osbornes, any of these guys who we kind of know what they are, right? We know that they're probably going to get worked in, into the mix in their offense. They're probably going to be fantasy relevant. That's why they're on the draft board in the first place. But we're not expecting them to be like high ceiling picks by any means. Adam Thielen's a guy who's like a floor guy. Kenneth Gainwell, won't even really be relevant in that offense. Jerick McKinnon, the only reason why he's getting drafted is because we've seen him actually be like relevant in this offense before in Kansas City. Not too long ago, we're not too far removed from the Super Bowl where him and Pacheco were basically running mates, and they were both like the main guys in that offense. So, at least in the backfield. So I could see why guys like this are getting picked up. I already have kind of my home run shot in Sky Moore, but I had to draft him a little higher than I would have maybe liked to. This is also a position where I could just go and get a tight end right now. And I'm actually going to go do that. So it hurts when you draft a guy on a team like the Broncos, but I said I was punting. I said I was punting the tight end position. Greg Dulcich is somebody we've seen be effective in the small sample size that we've seen from him. And we know that Sean Payton likes his tight ends, his really talented athletic tight ends. So I went and grabbed him. Totally makes sense. Now, this is where I'm going to be forced to literally just pick up a guy like, because there's only 30 seconds on the clock and I just wanted to get a kicker out of the way so I could actually think about my other picks. Reed Blankenship for tight end. Interesting. So, I don't know who that is. You're talking about Rodrigo? I don't know who Reed Blankenship is, to be honest. He's not even in the system here in ESPN. I couldn't even search this guy. So I don't know if you made that name up, but that's definitely oh, he must be too irrelevant. Nice, because I've never heard of him. I'm just gonna tell the truth right now. I've literally never heard of him. I did you the because I was freaking out like, hey, wait, do I not know about somebody? Like, is this a sleeper I need to figure out? He's clearly not even on the system here, but I'll look him up in a sec. But yeah, so these last two picks or these last three picks, I want to pick up receivers specifically that will be home run hitters eventually, right? So Jonathan Mingo. I really like the prospect of him potentially being a home run hitter. If Romeo Doubs ends up getting it together with, Christian Watson was drafted so high. Romeo Doubs is going for free. We could potentially see him be the guy in that offense, right? The Jordan Love top target, at least when it comes to those high, value looks. So I'm actually going to go and get a Romeo Doubs, to be honest. I know the Alan Lazard guy's there. I know he has rapport. I know he'll probably be more effective early on. That's not what these picks are for. Van Jefferson, absolutely. See, excellent pick. And honestly, it's not just because I'm a homer. It's like LA, baby, let's go. But Van Jefferson is an excellent, excellent choice when you're talking about someone to take a late round flyer on. He's going to be in an offense that wants to pass a lot, right? Like we know if Matthew Stafford's healthy, he's going to throw the ball 30 plus times a game. Cooper Kupp can't catch all of those, right? So Van Jefferson's going to have to be a guy who steps up in that offense and plays meaningful minutes, meaningful snaps, gets meaningful targets on this team. Again, I don't think we're, fooling ourselves and thinking that this team's going to be any good. This team's not going to be any good by any stretch of the imagination. But it still will be a team that's relevant in a lot of games in terms of fantasy purposes and defenses. I'm going to go ahead and go Eagles just because we've seen in the recent memory that their defense was good. I know it got worse this year, and I know that division is probably going to be kind of tough, maybe tougher than it was in recent memory because it was a cakewalk for them last year. But I like grabbing, them in the last round here. But so let's talk about this team. A little heavy on the Bengals. That's to be expected from a Bengals fan. But I liked where I got these guys. I didn't reach for any of them. I felt like it was a natural place to pick up Joe Burrow, to pick up, a T. Higgins. So I'm not mad that I have a lot of Bengals in that respect. And I did something that I probably wouldn't do in a real draft, which is draft a backup quarterback as early as I did, because normally you wouldn't get a guy like Geno Smith who's serviceable. He's a QB1. You wouldn't get him to be the backup to Joe Burrow typically if Joe Burrow everything was fine and normal and healthy with him, right? So, but that's why I did it, because he's not 100% healthy. We know that there is a question mark in terms of, with that calf. Is he going to be, 100% going into the season? It's looking good. We've heard positive things from that, from the Bengals camp about that injury, but it's still not a sure thing, right? So that's the reason why I went and got Geno Smith. But then, my running backs, Austin Eckler, super stoked about him being in the, the 4th pick overall position. That was the natural pick to make. So I'm happy with that. I'm totally fine with Austin Eckler. He should be fine. I don't know if he'll have as many touchdowns as he had last year, but still, he's going to be amazing. He's going to be worked in the passing game and the running game. So amazing pick here in my mind. Cam Akers, stoked about him being my RB2. I have depth if he doesn't pan out right away, right? Like I did get the Dalvin Cook. I did get the Jamal Williams, who, like I mentioned earlier, will be relevant in the first few weeks. Both of those situations, they need them to be relevant, whether it's because Breece Hall's not coming back 100% healthy right away, or if it's because, Alvin Kamara's suspended. Both Jamal Williams and Dalvin Cook will be immediately relevant in those backfields. So for some reason, Cam Akers, I'm not liking his matchups, or all of a sudden, I'm cooling on him because of reports that I'm hearing of like, the Kerryon Williams of the world are getting more, looks in practice, or like all of a sudden, like we're talking about, or Kyron Williams, sorry. Like all of a sudden we're talking about, this situation with Cam Akers is completely different, and that could change on a dime. We've seen Sean McVay just all of a sudden wake up one day and on a whim be like, oh yeah, like Cam Akers, you're not the starter anymore. So that I think is baked into his ADP. That's why he's going so low, even though he could be such a valuable like fantasy asset. We've seen him perform at a high level for sure, especially with volume. So that risk I think is baked into his ADP. But again, that's why I got a little bit more depth than maybe, I would have otherwise if I had a more solid RB2 there, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, what can you say about this guy? He's a stud. He's going to get a lot of volume right off the bat. Obviously, his ankle's a little tweaked right now. See how that goes. Obviously, they're going to take it easy with him. If that progresses well and he's ready to go 100% at the beginning of the season, I've got a killer wide receiver 1 there. And frankly, like I said, he's somebody who I could see a la Stephon Diggs in that first year where he popped off with Josh Allen. I could see him finishing as like a top 3, top 5 wide receiver, just based off volume and efficiency, and he's definitely going to get a lot of touchdowns. That offense is going to score a shit ton of touchdowns, I believe. So, and like I said, they're going to win that division. They're going to be wanting to win games, especially against division rivals. Maybe the Packers take a step forward. I think the Vikings take a step back. The Bears are still in that mix. So that division, actually seems like it might be pretty competitive. But again, like I think that, the Lions are the top team right now in that division, and it's theirs to win. It's theirs to lose, essentially, right? Next, we're going to talk about T. Higgins, who I picked up, I think in the 5th round, right on the turn there, or 4th, 5th turn, and totally fine with that. Like, actually, sorry, he was my 3rd round pick. Totally fine with that because, oh shit, did that just fuck it up? Oh no! Now I can't access my team. Well, I'll just finish my point about T. Higgins. He's a boss. He's someone who on any other team would have been a wide receiver 1. On like 20 other teams, maybe 25 other teams in the NFL. Like I can't name more than 7 guys who I think are more talented and just better receivers overall than T. Higgins. And he's the number 2 on that team. I think it's more of like a 1A, 1B with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But obviously, we know that they're going to want to pass the ball. And so that's why I went and grabbed Joey Burrow, and stacked him with T. Higgins. I was stoked to stack that, to have that stack. So I'm really sad that I lost my my mock here, but that's fine. Either way, that's going to wrap this stream up. But if you're just now joining, I appreciate the follows. I appreciate all the new views. We're going to be doing this basically every day to start the preseason till the beginning of the regular season, and then we'll probably do like every other day or something like that. While regular season depends on the availability of everybody here, and we'll have some guest stars coming in as well. So, but yeah, keep an eye on this space. Thanks again for the follows. If you want to go and review the VOD because you missed the beginning of that mock draft, I recommend doing so. It's definitely a fun mock draft. And yeah, this has been Game Time Tide. Thanks again for watching. I'll see y'all later.